You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. I am your host, Jeff Hinshaw. Thanks for tuning in. Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. And it is here to bring you back into alignment with the cosmos. So thank you for being here as always. Hey Cosmic Cousins, welcome back to another week of the podcast. This is our special Aquarius Full Moon podcast episode right here in the heart of Leo season 2023. So to all the Leo suns out there, happy birthday, happy solar return to you. For those of you with Leo or Aquarius in your big three, this is an important lunation for you. And for anyone looking along this Leo-Aquarius polarity in your chart will be of importance for meditation under the light of this full moon. So we're going to talk about the Leo-Aquarius polarity today. We're going to check in with Venus and Leo Retrograde. We're going to listen to a song by my friend Joelle with their band Doll Muscle. The song's called Burn, and it deeply speaks to this Venus and Leo retrograde season that we're experiencing. And it also connects us to a personal story. I'm going to share a personal story about my Venus retrograde experience this year. And then to close out our time, we are really lucky because we get to sit down with Claire Burgess, who is the creator of the Fifth Spirit Tarot and also the Gay Marseille. So that you'll want to stick around for. I actually met up with Charlie in person and we gathered in their living room to record that part of the podcast episode. So it's a pretty jam-packed Aquarius Full Moon episode. And as always, thanks for being here. My name is Jeff Hinshaw. I am an astrologer, a tarot reader, an artist, a writer, and mentor. If you'd like to check out my offerings, you can visit cosmiccousins.com. But for now, let's go ahead and transition into a little meditation for embodied health, connecting us into this Aquarius full moon. So you could go ahead and bring your awareness to your body and your breath as we transition into that now. Start by bringing deep, nourishing inhales into the body. And begin to shift the focus towards your nervous system. Aquarius is connected to the nervous system. Each astrological sign is connected to a different part of the body. Aquarius is connected to the ankles and the Achilles tendon, to the calves, and to the nervous system. So begin to gently scan your body. You can start at the top of your head and gently move down the face and the shoulders, the heart, which is Leo's part of the body, the stomach, scan down the hips, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, all the way to your feet and your toes. And so as you scan, bring attention to any areas of tension or discomfort or imbalance in the body. Notice any sensations or emotions that arise in those areas. And then shift your attention to your nervous system. You can visualize your nervous system extending throughout your entire body. You can imagine that with each breath, you are infusing this network with a sense of calm, balance, and harmonious flow. And as you exhale, you can release anything from the energetic body that feels stagnant or stuck. And so Aquarius, the glyph for Aquarius is two energy waves that run parallel to one another. So Aquarius is also connected to the energy body. Every time that we gather, I will offer you three phrases, and these three phrases are inspiration for tarot pulls, a 3-card tarot pull, it's a prompt for journaling. It could also launch you into some discussion with a loved one. So the phrases we have for this Aquarius full moon are I hope, I know, I pour forth. I hope, I know, I pour forth. And you can place the star card and the tarot out to connect you in with this. So welcome to the heart of Leo season. We're right here in the middle of this fixed fire season where the radiant energy of the sun, which is Leo's ruling planet, brings forth this opportunity to connect into the vibrant tapestry of self-expression, of creativity, and of passion. And so as you bask in the Leo light this time of year, you may find yourself in the midst of some sort of powerful celestial dance between this Venus retrograde in Leo and also the Aquarius full moon. So this is really shaping and informing the way that I'm connecting in to this Aquarius full moon, seeing that Venus is currently retrograde. This is inviting us to dive deep into the realm of our heart, to reevaluate our relationships, our values, and our desires. So the Aquarius full moon on its own, it serves as a potent illumination of our individuality. Aquarius wants to remind us of our individuality, and so does Leo, the polar sign to Aquarius. Aquarius' individuality is more connected to the intersection that it holds with collective consciousness and collective movements. Aquarius is the sign of the visionary and also the rebel. And so this is encouraging you to step outside of societal norms and embrace your authentic self. This full moon, this Aquarius full moon lunation reminds you that in order for you to foster true connections with others, you must first honor your own unique vibration. It also asks you to question the ways in which you are contributing to the greater good. Aquarian, the humanitarian, how are we all coming together to create a more radically inclusive world? Aquarius wants to know. So how does this Venus retrograde in Leo play into this, the polar sign? So Venus continues its retrograde journey in Leo until September 3rd, and it intensifies the focus on matters of the heart and also self-worth. So this retrograde period invites you to revisit past relationships, to reconnect with lost passions. Like I brought Zodiac emoji back. We're finishing off that project. It's asking you to reassess your values. It may bring up unresolved issues as well, asking you to heal and release what no longer serves you around matters of the heart. So this combination of the Aquarius full moon, of Venus and Leo retrograde, it is an invitation to explore your relationships with both love on a personal scale and also on a collective scale with humanity. There's this opportunity to check in with self-expression and also authenticity. And ultimately, this time is a period of reflection, of reevaluating, that is guiding us towards a deeper understanding of our needs and also our desires. So I've been thinking about this Leo-Aquarius polarity a lot, particularly because of the Zodiac emoji project. So if you're not familiar with the Instagram for Cosmic Cousins, we're working on a project called Zodiac Emoji. And since we are in Leo season, we are currently voting on which emoji is the most Leo. And one of the emojis up for nomination is the flaming heart emoji. And Leo is connected to the heart. It's also a fire sign. So a Cosmic Cousins follower brought to my attention a flaming heart pen with angel wings that is inscribed with the Shakespeare quote, "I defy you, stars. I defy you, stars." And so I immediately thought of Leo's polarity to Aquarius because Aquarius's official emoji is the galaxy emoji and Aquarius is connected to the stars in the sky. So considering this Shakespeare quote, "I defy you, stars," it offers us a reflection on the Leo and Aquarius polarity and how it explores the interplay between free will and fate. Leo being willpower and free will, and Aquarius being fate and destiny. So Leo Ruled by the sun, it represents the energy of individuality. Leo is connected to self-expression and personal willpower. Leo is associated with the courage to shine your light brightly in the world. And Leo teaches us that we have the power to create our own reality through our choices, our actions, and our intentions. So when we connect into Leo, this flaming heart, I defy you, stars, it invites us to step into our sovereignty and to embrace our free will. On the other hand, Aquarius, co-ruled by Uranus and Saturn, represents the energy of collective consciousness, of awakening, innovation, and also the higher mind. So Aquarius is associated with the concept of fate and destiny. Aquarius, this is reflected in the archetypal energy of the water bearer who pours forth wisdom and cosmic knowledge to humanity. Aquarius reminds us that we are part of a larger tapestry interconnected with all beings and that there's a higher purpose to our existence. So this quote, I defy you, stars, suggests a defiance against the predetermined course of destiny or the limitations imposed by external forces. Instead, it's this deep desire to transform. So in this context, Leo embodies the idea that through our willpower and our conscious choices, we have the ability to shape our fate. It speaks to the belief that our actions and intentions can have a profound impact on the course of our lives, despite any preconceived notions of what is predetermined or fated. So in essence, Aquarius acknowledges this existence of a larger cosmic plan. Leo teaches us to embrace our individual agency within that plan. And I think it's important to hold both of these to find a balance between our personal will and the greater collective. It teaches us that while we have the power to shape our own destiny through our choices and actions, we are also interconnected with a much larger humanitarian and cosmic dance. So how can we find space to hold both the fate and the free will? I think this is something quite profound to meditate on here on this Aquarius full moon in Leo season. So I wanted to share with you my Venus retrograde and Leo story. So just as a reminder, Venus is retrograde July 22nd through September 3rd. And Venus is the planet of love and beauty. And this cosmic event, this retrograde, asks us to reassess our relationships, to reassess our creative pursuits, to reevaluate our self-worth. And so friends and lovers from the past may appear during this time to help you reignite your authentic expression, Leo. You also might find new friends or lovers emerging at this time that encourage you to step out even more boldly into the light. And so in my own life, one of my best friends from years past has reemerged, and his name is Joel Collier. And they recently relocated to Portland from New Orleans, and we are both re-meeting each other at a very pivotal moment in our lives. And so personally, I've been moving through a lot of deep and intense challenges this year in 2023, and Joel has been really sweet and encouraging me out into the world. So last week, we took my paddleboard out to the river, and I rode him and his little toy chihuahua as they sat on the front of the board like royalty, which felt very Leo. But when we found a private spot to dock, Joel surprised me with two 40-inch mermaid wigs. And we then made a new friend who invited us to the Portland Mermaid Parade. And what's wild about this is that Joel and I attended the Mermaid Parade at Coney Island back in 2015 when we were both living in Brooklyn. And that's when it dawned on me that the summer of 2015 was the last time Venus was retrograde in Leo. Venus will retrograde in the same sign every 8 years. So when we realize this cosmic synchronicity of going to a mermaid parade, both times Venus was retrograde in Leo, it blew our minds, first of all, because Joel is also an astrologer. And we felt a sense of cosmic confirmation around our friendship and also around the major shifts that we are making in our lives. And so in the newsletter, I always send out a newsletter, and I'll probably post it on Instagram too. I posted a picture of, or I will post a picture of us at the Coney Island Mermaid Parade back in 2015, the last time Venus was retrograde in Leo. And then again, I shared a picture in the newsletter of this year's, the 2023 Portlandia Mermaid Parade, and we actually even made the news. I'll read you a little bit from what's in the news, but there's a picture of Joelle and me looking out at the Willamette River from Poets Beach, and we both have our 40-inch wigs on, and you can see Joelle's little toy chihuahua. But the title of the article is Mermaid Parade Honors Late Portland Drag Icon. The Portlandia Mermaid Parade and Festival brought lots of fun and recognition for drag and Portland drag performer Darcel, who recently passed away this year. So I share this experience of this reunion with a friend from the past and the synchronicity of the Mermaid Parade with hopes that it will open you up to the possibility of magic and reunion in your world around you. So Joelle is reminding me of a past version of myself, is encouraging me to express myself boldly, right? Leo is encouraging me to enjoy life in the here and now. Also Leo, beyond the intellectual and humanitarian cosmic realms of Aquarius. And I'm also encouraging Joelle to confidently start this new chapter in Portland. I'm supporting their healing offerings, and I'm also giving them a platform this week on the podcast to share their music by playing their band's song Burn on this week's episode. This song Burn is deeply connected to the themes of this Leo Venus retrograde. And so we're going to listen to that in a moment. But if you feel called, please check out Joelle's website. It's called The Crystal Compass. There's a link in the show notes where they offer intuitive energy healing. And also check out their band Doll Muscles music. And at this time, in light of everything that we're rediscovering here on this Leo Venus retrograde, let's tune into this song Burn by Doll Muscle now.
Started this fire and I couldn't fight it. Now after all this time, you want to reignite it. I don't know if you remember the state you left me in. So thin. When another one comes along, I try to hold them steady, but my attachment's much too strong. And the truth is I'm not ready. So I tell them, please don't get too close, 'cause I might burn ya, I might burn ya. Please don't get too close, 'cause I might burn ya, I might burn ya. Don't try to catch my eye, look the other way. Walk over to say hi, I won't know what to say. I don't know if you remember, you kill me with your gaze, but I'd rather tend these embers than burst right into flame. When another one comes along, I try to hold them steady, but much too strong. And the truth is I'm not ready. So I tell her, please don't get too close, 'cause I might burn ya, I might burn ya. Please don't get too close, 'cause I might burn ya, I might burn ya. Please don't get too close, 'cause I might burn ya, I might burn ya. Please don't get too close, 'cause I might burn ya, I might burn ya.
So powerful to listen to this song during Venus retrograde in Leo. Again, that's my best friend Joelle of Doll Muscle with the song Burn. Links in the show notes if you'd like to check out more of their songs, and also if you'd like to check out Joelle's healing offerings. The Crystal Compass is the website, also link in the show notes for that too. Thank you, Joelle, for sharing your voice with us. And thank you to those of you who are listening and tuning into the show. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. So thank you for being here. And if you'd like to rate, review, leave comments and love, that always helps to spread the show. You could also share this with a loved one, anyone who you think might benefit from this kind of astrological work. So up next, we have a really great conversation. I'm excited about this one with Claire Burgess, who many of you know. This is their second time being on the podcast. Charlie is a queer and trans non-binary tarot practitioner, author, artist, and deck creator. Their first deck, Fifth Spirit Tarot, which many of you know I'm always using and talking about and blasting, is a queer and inclusive deck for a world beyond binaries, which was first crowdfunded and self-published in 2020 and is now available from Hay House in a new mass market edition. Their book, Radical Tarot, A Guide to Reading Tarot Radically for Personal and Collective Liberation, will be coming out from Hay House this September 2023 and is available for pre-order now. Charlie is currently at work on two new decks, the Gay Marseille Tarot and the Aquarius Rising Oracle. They are also the sporadic host of the Word Witch podcast and teach tarot classes online and in Portland, Oregon, where they live with their spouse and an extreme number of houseplants and fantasy novels. Charlie and I met in person for the first time, gathering in their living room for the recording of this week's Aquarius Full Moon conversation. And in our conversation, we talk about the retelling of queer history and queer liberation through the tarot. We talk the Tower card, how crisis and upheaval can be a rupture point for change, the relationship Aquarius holds to both the Tower and the Star card in the tarot, how hope exists in tandem with loss and pain, the Leo Aquarius polarity, Frida Kahlo as a strength card, fate versus free will, Chariot and the strength collective years, aliens, artificial intelligence, and more. So at this time, let's go ahead and tune into this conversation with Claire Burgess. You may want to turn the volume up a little bit because I think that my voice is a little bit quiet in this conversation. That's something that I'm working on, is projecting my voice out more into the world. But either way, this is a great convo, and I'm excited for you to tune into it. So let's go ahead and tune into this conversation with Claire Burgess now. Yay. This is a really exciting moment for the Cosmic Cousins podcast because today I have the honor of gathering again for the second time with Claire Burgess, who is, many of you know as the creator of the Fifth Spirit Tarot, but you also have many other offerings that we're going to connect in with today. And I'm actually in Charlie's living room right now, and it is amazing. It's like being inside of like an occult shop or something. There's all kinds of books and decks and crystals and Frida Kahlo. I actually came here today with a picture of Frida Kahlo that I got for you on the Cancer new moon that you spotted in my Instagram story. And I brought some sunflowers today in honor of Leo season.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So happy Leo season.
Thank you.
Happy Aquarius Full Moon.
Thank you.
Could you share with us what your big three is? Just as a reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm an Aquarius sun, Gemini moon, and Scorpio rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a thing I like to do. I call it personal myth making. And it's where you take the sun, the moon, and the rising, and it makes a little story. And sometimes I like to see like if it elicits a memory or just connects you to a part of yourself. So I'm going to share with you yours. I'm not sure if we did this last time or not, but
I don't think so.
The sun sign is like the character of the story. So you are the innovative humanitarian, Aquarius sun. The moon is the backdrop. For Gemini moon, I usually say in your neighbor's backyard. Connecting us to the immediate surroundings. And then the rising sign is, what are we doing in the neighbor's backyard? We're transforming darkness into light, Scorpio rising. So the innovative humanitarian in your neighbor's backyard, transforming darkness into light. So you can like take that in for a moment and see if, does it awaken a memory or like, what does it bring up for you?
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if we did this on the podcast last time, but I've definitely taken this in through what you've shared on like Instagram before. So I thought about this a little bit. Innovative humanitarian, awesome. I would love that to be true. I feel like I need to live up to that one, but I'm trying. Transforming darkness into light definitely feels like a thing, especially when I think about it in terms of art and writing, because I feel like a lot of that for me and for a lot of artists involves, taking life experience and turning it into something beautiful, which is sometimes turning darkness into light in a way. And my neighbor's backyard makes me feel a little bit creepy.
We are like in the neighborhood right now. Like I came over to your place, so I'm feeling into it in that way. But yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if you're like sneaking around in your neighbor's backyard, that could be kind of creepy.
I have had a lot of help from community and from friends in my life. Yeah. So like the apartment we're in right now, we sort of inherited in a way from a friend, which is the only way we could have ever afforded to buy a condo in Portland, period, and so like...
So you actually purchased, this is yours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's the bank's, but...
Right. Yeah.
But we're working on it being ours.
Right. That's major.
Yeah, it is.
Congrats.
It is.
Is there a certain astrological transit that you might connect to purchasing a new place?
I don't know.
I'm like seeing, you have the North Node of Fate in Taurus. And I do think of Taurus as like owning something and having something physical, like even just like creating decks and books and bringing them into physical manifestation feels like Taurus. Yeah. And you just had your nodal return. You have the North Node of Fate at 3 degrees of Taurus, which was in the last few months. Yeah. The North Node just shifted into Aries, so we're on to new themes, but I that's where my eye is going to first.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That feels good. And that helps me make sense of North Node and Taurus a little bit, because I have a hard time connecting to Earth energy since I have so little of it in my chart, as you know. Yeah.
But yet here we are in this space that is so earthy. Like I feel like we're living in your depiction of the Queen of Pentacles and the fifth spirit. Like that, I feel like I've walked into their space, but maybe add in like the moon card or something.
Yes. Yeah. We're hitting the vibe. That's exactly what I like to hear.
Yeah. And I love that particular depiction of the Queen of Pentacles because there's 3 different plants and one looks like it's been growing for like 5 years. One looks like it's been growing for 1 year and one looks like it's like a brand new seed. So that usually comes up in conversation around like what we're nurturing and how we have projects that are maybe more long-term and some that are newer. So I think this could be a cool opportunity for us to connect to all the different projects you have. Like fifth spirit is maybe like that plant that's been growing for a little bit and then you did a new version of it, which I want to check in with. But what is it feeling like for you now to have also the Gay Marseille coming into the world? This is your second tarot deck?
Yeah.
What's that shift feel like having the second one being
Man, it's a lot different than the first one. And I also have a book coming out in September, Radical Tarot. So like my second book, because the Fifth Spirit Tarot Guide was like a book. Right. But my first sort of standalone book coming out.
And is that published through someone or is it self-published?
That's through Hay House. Yeah. So the same publisher who did the new mass market release of Fifth Spirit Tarot is publishing Radical Tarot as well. But the Gay Marseille is just me through Kickstarter. So it's being self-published, crowdfunded, currently right now. So anybody listening to this, the Kickstarter ends at 9 a.m. on August 4th. Yeah. So you've got like a couple days.
72 hours. Yeah, because this episode will come out for the Aquarius Full Moon, which is August 1st, Monday, August 1st. And if we're going by the Gregorian calendar, then we have a blue moon this August because the second full moon will be August 30th, which is the Pisces full moon. I typically more think of if we have two full moons in the same sign back to back as being more of a blue moon, but two full moons in August. And this episode is released in time for you to support the Kickstarter for the Gay Marseille. Have you reached the funding point?
We have just reached it. We've just passed it by like a little bit.
Great.
So it's great. It's great. We've reached the goal. We have some stretch goals out there now, including a class that if we... that's the first stretch goal, is that I'll teach a class for all the backers on the Marseille system, because I think that a lot of people are intimidated by the Tarot de Marseille, because the writer Wade Smith is the one that we're all so familiar with, you know, and saturated with. And so I would love to have the opportunity to teach people, you know, about the Marseille system and how to read Marseille cards, which is really it's not different. Barely at all.
And I think you're helping to bridge that gap for people who might be more intimidated by the pip cards, because you've added in such accessible, quirky little symbols in the pip cards. So let's check in about it. Like, let's try, you know, because the pip cards, what are pip cards?
So pip cards are generally, sometimes the word is used for the ace through 10 cards, period. But really pip cards mean cards that have geometric designs, featuring like X number of the symbol of their suit. So like the 8 of Pentacles has 8 pentacles, or it's usually referred to as coins in the Marseille system. But
and this is a bit more traditional, like the original tarot decks were luxury card playing games. At least that's how I've learned it. And they typically didn't have scenes on the pip cards.
Correct. The pip cards were just the X number of swords, X number of cups, you know. But and so the Gay Marseille, or in the Tarot de Marseille, it's the same sort of system, but the Marseille deck was actually it's a pattern of deck, or like a style of decks, rather than like one specific deck. But it is it's kind of like the people's deck, because it made it accessible and affordable for regular people to own tarot decks. Right.
And was this with the printing press?
With their woodblock printed how the Marseille style sort of came to be and proliferated across Europe, and every place the cards would go, a new printer would sort of like pick it up and pretty much copy the design of the cards, and maybe like give little changes to it based on their style or the region that they're in. But since they were woodblock printed, it made them affordable. And also a lot more accessible. Like, there were a lot more of them because they could be mass produced. And so the regular person got to use tarot.
And we live in a time period now where we have the ability to self-publish, which is a whole nother like evolution in that whole process, because it's not only accessible to everyone, but literally everyone listening to this conversation can make their own deck if they want to. And you're someone who I think has really inspired that with people, because you have shared publicly that you're like, didn't consider yourself an artist before you started creating the decks. So thanks for encouraging all of us to step into creating our own opportunities to share our perspective on archetypes, which is making me think of I saw that you have a workshop out where you're helping people cultivate or create their own understanding of the system of tarot decks, or it might even expand beyond tarot too, to create their own decks.
It's focused on tarot, but like the information in it, especially about printing and publishing, could be applicable to any deck system. But we'll specifically be talking about tarot, and there will be, we'll be talking about sort of the iconography and how to like make it our own, and the archetypes and how to like find our own connections to them, instead of just like reproducing the same images over and over again, which that's cool. I love like redos of old decks. I mean, I'm doing one myself.
Yeah, right.
But I think they're especially cool when the creator can bring something new into it, even if it's just their perspective.
Totally. Yeah. What I'm thinking of right now, I had the opportunity back in like, I want to say it was like 2016, 2017 when I was living in New York. The Cloisters is a museum in like Upper Manhattan where it's like art history essentially, and they had a whole tarot exhibit where they had the Visconti on display, like one of the originals, like in a glass cage. People would like walk in and like look at it for a few minutes and then walk out, and I was in there for like 2 hours just like studying each card. And there were other decks too that it wasn't specifically focused on tarot cards. It was focused on luxury playing cards is what they called it.
Oh, cool.
And what I had learned from that exhibit, I feel a little bit of it coming in the way that you're working with the game Marseille, which is that originally these decks of cards were intended as a game that was also often critiquing society in some way. Like it was a bit of like satire on the systems that we live in. And so that it also kind of had like a comedy element to it too. Yeah. And as I share that with you, particularly thinking about like the way that you're retelling queer history and queer liberation through your artwork in this game Marseille is super inspiring. The card that's coming to mind right now that I'm even getting the chills thinking about it now is the Tower card. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about the Tower card in the game Marseille and why you chose to depict it the way that you did?
Yeah, absolutely. The Tower is the is Stonewall. So on the tower itself, it says Stonewall Inn, and we have Marsha P. Johnson and Stormé Delavery sort of coming out of the tower jubilantly. Stormy's holding a brick, and we have a cop and a judge being thrown down from the tower. Right. And when I was making that card, I mean, I knew what I wanted it to be from the beginning, because like crisis, which is one of the things the tower can represent, can be a rupture point, for change. Crisis and upheaval can be what is necessary in order to like truly change anything. And so often when we look at the Tower card or pull it in readings, our response is fear, because change is scary.
Yes.
But I wanted to sort of depict the tower from a different direction that could show the good things, the joy even that can come from those moments of crisis.
Yeah. The word liberation's coming to mind. And I think since we're gathering under the light of the Aquarius Full Moon, I think connecting in with the Tower card makes sense because inherently it's connected to the Star card. I'm thinking of in the 5th Spirit Tarot, you have the tower in the background that has been already like in its rubble, like it's already been destroyed. So for the Aquarius Full Moon, bringing out the Star card is always something that I do as part of my ritual. And I'd love to hear how you maybe connect the Star card to the tower. And also, I am obsessed with your Star card and the game Marseille because it's very futuristic, right?
Yeah. Thank you. The two are inextricably linked in my mind, the tower and the star. We can't really have the star without the tower in some ways. In my book, Radical Tarot, in the star chapter, I write about hope, and how hope isn't something that we just like have naturally or that we're born with. It's something that comes despite struggle, despite pain. Like hope doesn't exist if everything is like happy-go-lucky, whatever. That's something else. That's privilege or like naivete or something. Hope exists in tandem with loss and disappointment and pain. And so the real experience of the star in my experience and in my practice, is one of like hoping and dreaming despite and or because of pain and of loss and of the possibility that it won't work out.
And how that intersects collectively. Like I've been thinking this week so much of how much it's a radical act to continue to practice hope and joy in the face of a planet that's on the brink of tremendous climate change. And it's a daily practice for me to find the joy and the hope. So you're really speaking to that, and that's felt in the star card, I do think. And it's actually one of Aquarius's phrases is I hope. Each sign has like a few different like verbiage lines that you can use, and I hope is one of them for Aquarius. And you're giving such more complexity to it and depth to it. Maybe it's also your Scorpio rising understandings of the world too, that it's not just this kind of like, I guess for some it could be like a spiritual bypassing like hope. But,
I had a really hard time with hope for most of my life. There's a line from an Amy Bender short story. I can't remember the name of the short story, but it's Amy Bender, and it goes something like, the most horrible thing of all was hope. Like because the feeling of hope, it can hurt sometimes. And that's how I experienced it for most of my life. Like trying to have hope was like painful.
Is there a memory that's coming to mind when you say that?
Yeah. Well, like, my brother, and I'm going to try not to get emotional talking about this. My brother has, something called schizoaffective disorder, which is kind of like, it's sort of like a type of schizophrenia, but it combined with bipolar, but you usually only have like one or the other, either the manic or the depressive in combination with schizophrenia. And he started manifesting signs of that when he was in high school. He's 4 years younger than me. And it was just devastating. You know, it devastated my entire family and was the thing that really broke all of us out of the very privileged, spiritual bypassing, you know, sort of bubble that we had all been in up until that point.
Would you say that was a tower moment for you?
Absolutely. Yes. Humongously. And like, you know, when you love somebody who has a chronic illness, which something like schizoaffective disorder is, you know, there's no cure. There's treatments, but those are even hard to like figure out because, you know, medication is like trial and error, and you know, it's just when you love somebody who has that as part of their life, you have to develop like a different relationship to hope, because the hope is no longer like, oh, everything's gonna be fixed and like be fine and like somehow he's gonna be a quote unquote normal person. You have to like shift your relationship to hope, and also to expectations and to normalcy and to what a good life can look like. You know, that it doesn't have to be the like, you know, standard cookie cutter elevator ride. You like reoriented towards maybe just like happiness. Just, you know, some sort of like comfort and happiness.
There's almost something being revealed in this word hope. And when thinking about it in the star card and its relationship to the tower, that rupture that we experience in the tower is opening us up to a whole new reality that was beyond our conceptualization from the beginning. So the hope comes from a place of, there's a tremendous amount of unknown in that. And with that, there's a lot of opportunity for innovation and also co-collaboration with the new reality that you're facing. And something that I love about the star card is that they're usually completely in the nude, and it's not about the material world as like the physical things that we had before. It is about nature and like how we have everything that we need to heal and to grow and to evolve. And yeah, I'm deepening my understanding of this card now and the word hope based off of what you're sharing so vulnerably too, which is also part of the star card. There is a tremendous amount of vulnerability in that.
Absolutely. And what you said about opening into realities that we hadn't thought possible or hadn't, maybe in some cases hadn't hoped for, you know? I think that what I was doing for a while after that was hoping for everything to, go back to the way it was before, which was not a possibility.
Right.
And I think we've seen a lot of that in the past several years with the pandemic, people just hoping that everything's going to go back to normal. I think a lot of people are still doing that with climate change as well, climate catastrophe. They're like, somebody will figure it out, and now, we've got to, that's not hope. That's wishful thinking.
Right.
It's
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're also, and I think of this with the Leo Aquarius polarity actually, is that it's also important to be in this present moment and not be so focused on the big humanitarian picture at all times, which as Aquarians, we can maybe fall into that like bigger picture vantage point to the point that we lose the joy of everyday life, which I see you as an Aquarius who's really learned to evolve through Leo in a few ways. And one of them is you were just posting, you were like playing video games the other day at an arcade, which might connect us a little bit more to Leo. So what does the Leo polarity mean to you as an Aquarius, this relationship to play? And I also see it reflected in your own partnership and relationship too. I think of Leo as like being romantic. I'm thinking of the Sun card in the fifth spirit where it depicts you and your partner.
I think that for me, one of the things that I think about when I think about Leo is the fact that it's my 10th house. And
so interesting for the Scorpio rising to get that Leo midheaven, right?
Right. And being like, that's an area, and right now Venus is retrograding through Leo, and so I'm like, that's fun. 10th house, what's going on? But for me, Leo has been something that at times I think is hard for me to connect with because I'm like scared of it in a way. It's also, it's opposite my sun, being an Aquarius.
Your sun Jupiter.
Yeah.
Both at the anaretic degree of Aquarius, just to add that.
Yeah.
It's major. Yeah.
So being out there, being visible in ways has been difficult for me. Like that's been a challenge and a fear that I've had to sort of figure out how to work through.
Yeah.
But Leo's aspects of creativity, that's something that that's the part of it that I love.
Yeah.
If I could have it my way, I would just create things. I would create tarot decks. I would write books, and no one would ever look at me. They would just,
I'm like, you are doing those things.
But having to be any sort of public person is something that's always been very scary for me. Yeah. It's something that I do because I think that the representation is important and that sharing our stories is important. But it's also something that terrifies me.
Yeah, and I think Leo does teach Aquarius to step into the spotlight.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Leo's phrase now. So he said, I hope is Aquarius is one of Aquarius's phrases. I create is one of Leo's, and you have this really amazing line in the introduction or the description of Radical Tarot that says, quote, tarot doesn't tell the future, it creates the future.
Yeah.
And I'm like, mic drop. That's like, boom. Like, there's so much in that sentence. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from for you when you wrote that? And thinking about I create and its relationship to Leo is I'm intrigued by for us too.
Yeah. I mean, it came from my tarot practice. I've always thought of and worked with tarot as something that it isn't predictive. You know, I mean, it can, when we pull cards in future positions, it can sort of give us ideas of like maybe the trajectories we're on, you know, where we're going, or options that might come up, and we can go, how does that make me feel? Is that what I want? What can I do to change that? What can I do to shift that, you know, or to cope with it? Or, you know, we have opportunities to, get in there and change the future every time we do a tarot spread. Yeah. And so that's the way that I work with it, is something that's more oriented towards creating the life that we want, creating the future that we want, sort of like looking into ourselves in the present and also in the past in order to create the future.
Yeah.
You know?
And queering the tarot is a part of that for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm so interested to see what the next evolution would be, because like I really like put you in this tarot history timeline with like Rachel Pollack and Pamela Coleman Smith, and you're like this generation's version of that.
No, stop.
Yeah, for real. And we're such in a more Aquarian time, like we're all like co-collaborating in it together. Yeah. But I use your deck, the Fifth Spirit, to teach about the history. Like I have a deck from each century, and yours is the one that I use for this century.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because of just like the depth of knowledge you have of symbolism and archetypes, and your bold, radical willingness to make changes as you see fit. Like, yeah, there's like also no holding back. And you also flavor in things that I love. Like you have the astrology glyphs in the Fifth Spirit Tarot. Yeah. So I have two questions, and they're separate directions. One of them, do you incorporate astrology in the game Marseille?
Do you want to ask your second question first, or?
I'll start there, because the other one's like a completely different direction.
Not as much as in Fifth Spirit, because, or at least not in the art. So in Fifth Spirit, I have the glyphs in the cards. But in the game Marseille, not so much. I at least I haven't been consistent about it. So I think that Temperance has like maybe like a fire sign tattoo, or like some. I'm not. I need to go back and look at it. Yeah. But no, I haven't incorporated it quite as much into the game Marseille. But it definitely is still like it's still there. It's still something that is enmeshed in my approach to tarot and my take on the cards. You know? Yeah,
like in the star card, like there's like futuristic things going on. So there's like a nod to Aquarius there.
Yes. It's how like when I was learning tarot, I was also learning about astrology at the same time, and the two really sort of built bridges in my mind. And so when I work with the star, I think about Aquarius. Yeah. And like when I work with the moon, I think about Pisces. You know, like they're just all together in there. When I think about the tower, I actually don't really think about Mars. I think more about Uranus. So I kind of skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah. Which Uranus is the higher octave of Mars. Yeah. So that makes sense. And I usually actually will connect Mars to like Emperor energy and kind of group it in with Aries.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
So I think the Marseille or the Marseille has justice and strength reversed.
They do.
Do you do that in the game Marseille, or?
I do, because it's a Marseille deck. Yeah. And so I wanted to keep with that tradition. And I think that there are ways that it works. It can work either way. And it makes sense in different ways, in both options. Yeah. It is a switch that's a little bit awkward for me, because I learned on Rider-Waite-Smith, right? You know, so it's something I've had to sort of wrap my head around, but I really enjoy the invitation to sort of to rethink the system, you know, to like bust out of that regimented, more sort of like calcified knowledge that I've had from Rider-Waite-Smith and go, but what if we did it this way? How does that work? What new things does it open up if we switch those cards?
I just had an idea in this moment, so I wonder if we'll do it together at some point. But what if we took all of the major arcana cards, shuffled them, and asked them, what order would you like to be told in next?
I love it!
Yeah.
Yes!
That could be kind of fun to do.
I say in Radical Tarot that, like, the cards were not numbered originally. Like in the first tarot decks, there were no numbers on the cards. There were also no names, no titles on the cards. On the major arcana cards, I should say. The pips did have numbers. And so the quote unquote original or like definitive order or numbering isn't known. It's not, that's not a real thing.
Like I'm thinking of the Visconti, right? It doesn't have any numbers. Correct. And the Tower and the Devil weren't in that deck originally.
Or they don't have, the cards aren't still surviving.
Gotcha.
And so that's one of the big mysteries.
They're the evil cards.
That's one of the big mysteries. And that is one of the lines of thought is that some superstitious people, took the Devil and the Tower out of the deck if they had existed at all. Or they might not have existed. They might have been later additions.
Yeah. If you were to add a 23rd major arcana card, what would it be?
I was thinking about, I was kind of thinking about doing a bonus card as like a stretch goal for the Gay Marseille.
Nice.
I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to end up doing that because...
You're such a tease.
I know. But almost every idea that I came up with, I was like, but there's already a card in the deck for that.
Yeah.
Or a card that has some flavor of it. So for the Gay Marseille, I was like, I could make a bonus card that was like just queer, because the theme of the deck is, very queer forward. But I was like, well, we already have that in Temperance, in the Fool, in the Magician.
Right.
Like, these things show up in all these different places. And that's also what I love about tarot is it's hard to think of extra cards that we would add that wouldn't already be contained somewhere in the deck in some flavor. We could add cards where the idea is more forward, more like, present.
The only deck I'm thinking of that I know that does that is the Pagan Otherworld.
Yeah.
They have like the Seeker or the Seer?
The Seeker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful card. I love the illustration on it.
And it's kind of like Hermit meets Fool or the World or something. Like I can feel it's like archetypes merging.
Exactly. I was gonna say that feels like the Fool or the Hermit to me. Yeah. But that is a cool possibility of like merging tarot cards.
Yeah. I'm into that.
That's something that
like a whole merging deck.
Yeah. That's something that I started kind of doing accidentally in like I was making a playing card oracle deck. Which is deep on the back burner because I've got a lot of other projects to finish first, but just because it's how my brain works, when I was sort of creating like the system for that deck, I started like writing down what major arcana cards each of the cards in like the oracle deck would be. And a lot of them had two of them, or it had like, the High Priestess and the Seven of Cups or something. And
I love hearing like you have all these projects on the back burner. We're just so excited to see you continue to bring stuff into the world. You're really in the flow right now, which is cool.
Thanks.
And I also wanted to shout out because I did come here with Frida Kahlo in my arms with some sunflowers, and you did choose to put Frida Kahlo in the Gay Marseille as the strength card, which is another card we can connect with during this time of year because it's Leo season. And then I reshared your post and was like, oh, this is connecting us to the Cancer-Leo cusp because you posted about it like the final days of Cancer. And I was like, oh, Frida's a Cancer sun with Leo rising. You didn't actually consciously that, right? But like maybe unconsciously or like you felt her Leo.
If I knew that she was a Leo rising, I completely forgot about it.
Yeah. So why did you choose to put Frida on that card? Are there any other? You said Marsha P. Johnson is in the deck. Did you make an appearance in this deck because you're in the 5th spirit?
Not yet, but I'm still finishing the court cards, so I guess I could put myself in there. But yeah, so I chose to put Frida on the strength card because of several reasons. So I guess the first one is that her art, her creativity, her art was also self-expression. So when I think about Leo, I also think about self-expression. It was like her art's very confessional in nature. And it absolutely is like transforming the difficult things that she went through in her life into things that are beautiful. Sometimes they're ugly beautiful, but they're beautiful. And also because back up. The strength card, before it was illustrated as like a woman with a lion, there was a version of the strength card in some older tarot decks where it was a woman with a big column, like a big sort of like ionic stone column.
Which I hadn't seen before until you have a art on your wall that depicts that, and you pointed it out to me.
Yeah. And that's like the woman with a big stone column. Sometimes the column is broken also, or it has like fractures in it.
Iconic.
It's a image of the virtue of fortitude. So the classical virtue of fortitude. And so that's why that illustration appeared on the strength card, because it was also called fortitude in the past. And Frida Kahlo, one of her most famous paintings is of herself, and she's like nude from the waist up, and she's got a column painted down like the middle of her body to represent her, well, presumably to represent her spine, because she had a horrible bus accident that made it like it, I think, fractured some vertebrae, dislodged others. And so like for the rest of her life, she was in and out of these plaster casts and had to have operations and stuff, and was living in chronic pain. And it just shows a side of the strength card that I guess is similar to the star card, because it's showing a different version of strength, or a different version of fortitude that isn't oriented towards brute force or like aggression or like, you know, macho man sort of toxic masculinity tropes. And this is instead about like creating like life coming from pain, like art coming from life. Like it's and also the freedom and like catharsis of self-expression and all these things.
I always learn something new when I hang out with you, which is cool. And, you know, I always connect Frida to Cancer because the Cosmic Cousins listeners named her Queen of Cancer when we were doing that project. And you're helping me connect to her Leo rising, which is really cool. And Cancer's body part, because each astrological sign is connected to a different part of the body. Cancer's the rib cage. So she's like in, you know, her ribs were actually like caged in with her plaster. What do you call that?
It's like a plaster cast, but they're like shaped like corsets. It's kind of what they look like.
Leo is connected to the heart and to the spine. So, like, hearing your connection to the column on the strength card. Leo's about, like, erecting the spine, which then you go up the back of the neck, beyond the occipital ridge, and up to the crown and the hair. So it's spine, crown, heart is Leo. So,
I did not even know that. Jeff can see my face. I'm like, what?
But you're just, like, so tapped into the energies of the cards that you just embody them and get them on a certain level. And I didn't know about the column on the strength card. You didn't know about the connection Leo has to the spine. And like, it's cool for us to just like talk and like teach each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah. So here during Leo season, these are body parts we can connect in with, is the spine and the heart. Aquarius is connected to the ankles and the nervous system. So I'm always kind of bringing it back to the body in my own practice, because I come from like somatic healing background, and I taught yoga for 5 years before getting into tarot and astrology and all of that cosmic stuff that I do. The other question I had, this feels kind of Aquarius, and I think for the Aquarius full moon, we can maybe project ourselves into the future a little bit. I hope. If we're putting yourself on the timeline of tarot history, and I feel you like radicalizing and querying the tarot in such cool ways, what do you think is like 100 years from now? If we're even still on this planet, what do you think 100 years from now? Like, what is your vision for the long term, like, connection of tarot?
You know, I think that what I hope is that 100 years from now, people will still be transforming the tarot. You know, people will still be sort of working it over, reviving it, queering it, radicalizing it. So my hope is that they will look back on people like me and be like, they were so wrong. Like, you know, how problematic were they? You know, because we'll keep growing as a society.
Right.
And so I hope that, you know, our knowledge, our connections, are different, are better, are stronger. We might see tarot cards take new forms. Like we already have, you know, apps on our phones where we can pull cards.
Right.
I can't even imagine what else.
Yeah.
Like
there are some things that we could bring into the conversation, which is one of the questions that was asked. Because this is more like connected to like current culture of what's going on. But the question is, and this was sent in by, I like to say who it's sent in by. This is sent in by Fairy Portals asks, what do y'all think about all the UFO disclosures and relationship to Aquarius?
I mean, like, of course it's going to happen during some, like, you know, mad Aquarius transits.
Which we have Pluto and Aquarius for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's here to stay with us for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been tapped into that? What was happening in the news this week?
You know, honestly, I haven't been like I know that it is happening, but I haven't read up on it a lot. Partially because as an Aquarius, I'm like, obviously, like, you know, like we knew this already.
Yeah, exactly. And part of me as an Aquarius is also like, convenient timing. Like, is this like a cover up for something else going on? Or like, I'm always a little suspicious. Yeah. So not to get too conspiracy theory on it.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. Another reason to funnel more money into like planetary defense or something.
Right. Yeah, that's where my mind goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, trust no one. But, this is making me think of, so I am doing this project right now. I think you've been voting some, the Zodiac Emoji Project. And right now, one of the ones that seems to be like one of the more popular ones for Leo is the red heart caught on fire. Like the flame heart emoji. Yeah. And someone sent me this really interesting post where I'm going to look more into it, actually. This is an opportunity for me to learn from the community and like also facilitate dialogue. But someone sent me this post about a heart on fire with angel wings. And then there's a quote underneath of it that says, I defy these stars. Ooh. So it's like, and I was like, oh, is this Leo's polarity to Aquarius? Which Aquarius is like connection to the stars and like maybe astrology. And maybe Leo is a bit more about exerting one's free will. Like, I defy you, stars. I wanted to share that phrase just in general for Leo season for everyone. I'd be curious if it brings up anything for you as just like an artist and a creative.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it brings up creation, just period, because you know the defiance in that statement is one that's very much like, you know, we will continue to create despite the odds. We will continue to create and try to affect change. In spite of horrendous odds, in spite of the fact that it might not work. You know, I think that fatalism is one of the main problems that we are facing as a society right now, because people are either, you know, they either want to go into like wishful thinking land and be like, it'll all work out, or people go into just like, it's doomed, what you're going to do. And so when people do that, they're not actually trying to affect change. Yeah. You know, they're not creating any sort of solutions. Yeah. And that's another thing with solutions. We demand that they be immediately effective and perfect instead of being able to try things and then adjust and learn from them. And, you know, and so I defy these stars. That's what it makes me think of. It makes me think of defiantly trying to change our fate and trying to change the direction that we're going.
Yeah.
As a collective or as an individual even.
Yeah. So this idea of fate and free will and somehow maybe connecting us to the Aquarius Leo polarity is quite fascinating. And I'm thinking some of what we're talking about today is probably going to be pretty juicy for next year too, as we're moving into a strength year. So I'm kind of feeling like more of that. And maybe the North Node of Fate entering Aries is also just kind of lighting some fire too right now. Yeah. There's definitely been a vibe shift for me this year. Even like after years of being like isolated in my apartment during the pandemic, just to like gather with you in person is a shift for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
We've known each other for years. Yeah?
Yeah.
But this is our first time meeting in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also my strength year. I just...
Is it?
Realized, yes. Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? And, you know, we were talking about Frida Kahlo's strength and the Gay Marseille. And then also strength in the fifth spirit is maybe one of my favorites. Love and trust is tattooed above the knees. There's a dog off leash, which has been... Bijou would never... Like, I've never been able to have him off leash. So, like, when I see it, I'm like, major. And that maybe there's... Is that a friend?
Yeah.
Depicted?
Yeah, that's my friend Hazel. Yeah. And the dog is a pit bull.
Instead of a lion.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. As my strength year... I don't know. It was a big like question mark. Like, what's this going to bring? You know, like I knew what Chariot year was going to bring.
You're always in the future.
Yeah, I'm like 1 year ahead.
Okay, I see you, Aquarius. Like, I'm going to try this on first and then let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Chariot year was wild and a lot happened.
You moved homes.
I moved homes. I wrote a book. What else did I do? I got top surgery. Like so many changes happened in my life in my Chariot year. Strength year so far has been like quieter in some ways and like equally focused on creation, but in a different way. In Chariot year, it felt like I had like momentum, you know, and in Strength year, it's been like highly creative, but a little bit more of a struggle. It has felt like defiant a little bit. So for instance, like the Kickstarter for the Gay Marseille has been harder to fund than Fifth Spirit was.
Interesting.
Fifth Spirit funded in 3 days.
Wow.
The Gay Marseille, it took 2 weeks to hit the funding goal.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's just like, it's just trickling in. It's a different thing, and that's fine. It's also a much more niche deck than Fifth Spirit was.
For sure.
We're in a different place as a society. Student loan payments are coming back. There's a recession. You know, there's all these things going on. But in order to bring the Gay Marseille into the world, I'm having to, like, put myself out there in a lot more ways.
Yeah.
Like doing...
You're talking about the pips or...
Yeah, like I'm starting to do reels for the first time finally, which like I did not want to do.
It's like Aquarius's worst nightmare. I feel like I'm like, no reels.
I hate it. I mean, let
me hide behind emojis for a little bit.
Please.
I'm good with that.
Yes. Like I want to make, like, I want to write and make still pictures, not moving pictures. Like,
yeah.
You know? But yeah, so I've had to like sort of go outside of my comfort zone and figure out how to create new things.
Yeah.
In some ways. So maybe that's a strengthy thing.
Yeah. So we were talking about the future trajectory of tarot and oracle decks, and I think one of those that we talked about before is just the access to self-publication.
Yeah.
And just like more people creating their own decks.
Yeah.
Another thing that's very like appropriate for us to reflect on it during the Aquarius Full Moon is artificial intelligence. That's here. And there's a big buzz around it. Yeah. And I'm a part of a little bit of the controversy because I've created an AI generated oracle deck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, I'm so like, for me, it feels like it was like a genuine, like, it was a long creative process. I had fun doing it. It brought joy into my life. And it's a little edgy.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
So what is your relationship to AI? Have you experimented with it at all? Mm-hmm. Or is this something that you're like, I'm not going to dip my toes in there?
Yeah. I haven't experimented with it really. I haven't even been on ChatGPT. Like, I haven't touched it, except for like, that one app that was making horrible AI pictures for a while, but that was just fun and hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, where you type in some words and then like you would get like some sort of like mashed potato monster that it would spit out. So that was fun. But I mean, my take on AI is that like my question is, why aren't we using this for things that could really benefit humanity / the planet?
Right.
Like, if it's so powerful, why are we using it to make copies of background actors to use in perpetuity without paying them if anything for it? Why is that what we're doing with it instead of solving actual problems? Right. And I have seen some news headlines where it is being applied in like actually useful ways. Like I saw one about like a vaccine or something that was like AI assisted and was like a breakthrough. So my entire concern around AI is in how has the potential to harm people. By, stealing our work, putting us out of work. The point of technology was to make life easier, was to help people, not to steal the jobs of artists, you know?
Which is like, it's a thing with this Venus in Leo retrograde with the writer's strike happening in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah. So like, I think that there are fun ways that it can be used for art as well. So like, I mean, I do all of my artwork digitally because I never really had any like, traditional art training. So like, I literally just don't know how to use paint, you know? I don't have that training. And so I do it on my iPad and Procreate. So I use I make digital art. All my art is digitally assisted. And so I'm sure that there are ways that AI can be used with somebody who has like a vision in mind, like somebody like you who isn't the head of a major movie studio, like it's anything that can make art and creation more accessible to people like you and I who otherwise might not be able to have the medium to have a voice. That's a good thing. I love that. I
think that's my intention with creating this deck.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for me to share my teachings in a way that otherwise I wouldn't have the opportunity to. Because there's something about a deck that just makes teachings more accessible. Which you have the guidebook for the fifth spirit, and you have the deck that goes along with it that like is such an integral part to that. Whereas if you just wrote the book on its own, which came first? Was it the deck or the guidebook?
The deck.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the updated version, you kind of condensed it into like a thicker little guidebook that comes with the deck. Yeah, which is really lovely. I know we're getting close to time, and I'm like, I have so many more questions. Like, I want to ask you about, like, the Queen of Wands, which I feel like is a very Leo card, the Queen of Wands. Why did you make the conscious choice to change the Queen of Wands from this kind of, like, boss at home, like, with her shirt unbuttoned and a black cat, to, like, maybe, like, a comedy drag queen? Like, what was the shift?
Well, so two things. One thing was that my relationship to the Queen of Wands changed or like evolved. The Queen of Wands was a card that I had like a hard time. That was one of the ones I had a hard time really accessing or feeling for some reason. And so like the first version was sort of this like boss witch sort of energy, as you said. But then my relationship with it evolved, and I was like, no, Queen of Wands is more about like kind of Leo feeling, like spotlight, self-expression, sharing a vision with people, you know? So it's a card that comes up a lot for like artists. It can be about art creation or just about like I think of the Queen of Wands as a kind of like visionary that like is able to make connections for like other people through their example.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And also like Queen of Wands just has big drag energy.
Yeah. It's like when I get the Queen of Wands in the new edition, it completely changes the way that I interact with it. And I am a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. Like that's like the only TV show I actually watch. So it always connects me to that kind of Leo polarity to my Aquarius. Is it depicted after an actual person, or was this a fictional character?
No, it was a fictional character. No, just based on like all the drag performances I've been to. You know, I'm sure that all of those were in my mind as I was creating it, but no, it wasn't meant to be a particular person. Yeah. Yeah. The original Fifth Spirit, Queen of Wands, the one in the chair with the cat, was inspired by Jessica Lange, who also has sort of like Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords energy to me. Or maybe Queen of Wands, King of Swords energy to me. I'm not sure. But
which that's, again, two cards we might put out to meditate on Aquarius and Leo. Yeah. Yeah. I always think of like, so Aquarius Full Moon, Leo season, it's Kate Bush was born during that. Yeah. The reverse of that is Pamela Coleman Smith is Aquarius with Leo Moon, which we had mentioned earlier today. And also Rachel Pollack was a Leo. Yeah. They passed away this year, so I'm also thinking about them on this Aquarius Full Moon too. Yeah. Are there certain tarot teachers that you look up to or that you learn from? Yeah,
Rachel Pollack was a huge one. 78 Degrees of Wisdom is still my tarot Bible. Just completely exploded my relationship with tarot when I found it. So certainly Rachel Pollack, number one. I've also learned a lot from the work of Mary Kay Greer.
Did you ever meet Rachel Pollack in person?
No, I didn't.
I had the opportunity to go on other workshops when I lived in New York. Yeah. And you give me a similar like spirit, because like it's so interesting meeting someone in person for the first time. You're a lot taller than I knew. Actually,
people say that all the time.
Like, oh my goodness. And Rachel Pollack was really tall too. Yeah. But y'all have, there's a kindredness to your just overall.
Yay. Yeah. I love to hear that. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I hope is one of our phrases, and maybe we'll just connect in with the final two that I like to connect with. And they're always changing, but another one for Aquarius is I know, which connects us to the fixed air quality of Aquarius. I hope, I know, and I think the third one that I'd like to use for this full moon is I pour forth, which connects us to the esoteric phrase for Aquarius, which I'd like to share with you as our closeout, and I'd love to hear what it brings up for you. The esoteric phrases come from Alice Bailey, who's an esoteric astrologer from the 1800s, and the Aquarius phrase is one of two that I've upgraded slightly. I changed the word men to friends. So the phrase for Aquarius is waters of life am I, poured forth for thirsty friends.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I pour forth. So I hope, I know, I pour forth.
That takes me right back to the star card.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Like the open vessels in the act of pouring out that we find in the star card. Like they're not the closed vessels of temperance where they're just moving water between two cups. They're pouring out onto the ground and back into the water. There's an openness to the star card and to Aquarius perhaps that's so open that it's not afraid of becoming empty. So like that's one of the things that I think about, like the willingness to like pour out those vessels and not be afraid of running out of water or of what will happen next, but just being willing to pour forth. for friends, for thirsty friends.
And do you find as an Aquarius that do you ever find that you are running on E with that ability to pour forth? Because I'm just like, all the projects that you have, it's just like, I said, you're in the flow, like it's just kind of flowing out of you. What do you do to refill your cup? And is the star card connected to the cups and the vessels and the tarot? I've never thought of that until you said vessels.
Yeah.
It's almost like swords, I know, and cups, swords and cups coming together with the water bearer. That's an air sign. Like, it makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, that's one of those mysterious connections that we find in the tarot and in esotericism. I think that like Aquarius is the water bearer. Well, I'm not gonna be able to finish that sentence with like a because. I don't know. I don't know why, but we do see the cups and the swords crossing over a lot because I think that they are almost like two sides of a polarity in a way. We've got, emotions, feeling, connections, and then we have, analysis, logic, reason, and those two things are at odds so often. But in Aquarius, in the star card, they are one. Yeah. So I think that there's a really like a non-binariness or a non-dualistic energy to Aquarius and certainly to the star card because it's about hope in the face of disaster and with the willingness to find that hope be disappointed eventually, because hope isn't a sure thing. Yeah. I think that those are certainly connected. And what I do to answer your question about how do I recharge? I read. I consume other art. Like I watch, good TV shows. I, go to a museum or something. I've got art books that I flip through, but I just take time to sort of indulge in those sorts of things. So I started trying to use Ursula K. Le Guin's writing schedule, which was basically, it's hilarious. I have it written over there on my desk. And it basically is like writing in the morning and then like giving herself enough time in the afternoon to read, to do that recharging, right? Or to garden, I have a garden for the first time here. Because you need that. You have to have that in order to have anything to pour out. Yeah.
Yeah. There is something about nature in the star card for me. Like I feel like I recharge like after our conversation today. I'm going paddleboarding at the river. Yes. And especially like in summertime here, like I'm outside every day as much as possible. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast today. If people wanted to learn more about your work, where might they find you?
My website is thewordwitchtarot.com. My Instagram is the.word.witch, and Instagram is where I am most active. I also have that same handle on Threads, of course, and TikTok, but the TikTok thing is new. Might not be long for this world. I'm basically just reposting the reels.
I forgot about Threads already. I signed up for it. I'm like, oh wait, I haven't gotten on that in a week or so.
I have been enjoying it much more than Twitter.
For sure.
Because it's literally just a less scary place currently.
And since it's connected to Instagram, like you immediately get followers. Like there's that kind of...
Yeah, so there's immediately a network that you're connected to. Although, it's just pretty much the same network. Right. So like, why? But I am enjoying it because I find myself sharing things on Threads that are very different from what I share on Instagram a lot of the time, because it's less, I'm more able to just like word vomit or like just
and you are
say whatever.
Thank you. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for coming over here to do this.
So fun. So cool to connect with Charlie in that way. Thank you again, Charlie, for being on the podcast with us. And thank you to all of you who listen and support the show. If you would like to be a monthly contributor to the show that helps make this podcast a reality, you could go to patreon.com/cosmic cousins, and there are some free workshops to Patreon supporters. In addition, I also offer one-on-one astrology and tarot readings. You can find out more at the link in the show notes. And I do have just one more spot open for a one-on-one mentorship for this fall. If that's you, I'd love to start a conversation about that. Either way, wishing for you a happy Aquarius full moon. I hope it's illuminating. And I didn't share this. I included this in my newsletter, but I'll just share it with you now. If you're making it all the way here to the end of this episode, perhaps this is a message just for you. But essentially, this full moon, the Aquarius full moon, completes a grand air trine. And this one is for those who might be more subtly attuned to the asteroids. So this grand air trine that's taking place is between the Aquarius full moon, Ceres in Libra, and Vesta in Gemini. And this can bring about a heightened sense of mental clarity and inspiration. So this alignment, it encourages new perspectives, engaging in meaningful conversation, and connecting with others on both an intellectual and a soul level. This will likely bring a deepening of our connection to the natural world, which is Ceres, and to our daily devotions, which is Vesta. So if you're connected to the asteroids, that's something to be tapped into. Again, our phrases for the Aquarius full moon are I hope, I know, I pour forth. I'm wishing for you a ripple effect of healing in your life and also in the lives of those around you. Thanks as always for being here. Take sweet care, cousins, and remember, deep breaths.